Hey everyone, welcome to Collector Chatter. We finally got Star Wars Funko NFTs coming, but the Funko president just resigned.
Collecting is the way. Now let's chat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Collector Chatter. This is episode 91. I am your host, Migs, and my co-host Charlie. As always, what's up, Charlie? We got some good stuff to talk about.
We
I know
do.
you're pretty hyped about some of
I'm
it.
really hyped. We finally have some good news, even though the genre that this lays in has been a roller coaster for us. So it's interesting. I feel like they keep reeling at least me back in, which I don't necessarily love because I am trying to like
Yeah.
give them a break.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite interesting to see what actually comes about this whole new like little drop that we have. But of course, we're gonna talk about Funko NFTs. We do have three big waves that are announced that are gonna be coming in March, which is an interesting thing because they don't usually do it this way.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
I
And
liked
then
that.
one of them Star Wars. So obviously, that's going to be a big deal. The president of Funko actually resigned. So this is an interesting thing that we're going to get into because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about kind of what happened and what we think, it really means, which is, yeah, pretty nutty. Then we have some other stuff. We have some other designers' choice stuff that we're going to talk about, some interesting things as well. And the soda news is still
Yeah.
ongoing, and it might be I don't know. We're gonna talk about some interesting stuff when it comes to the soda, so we'll get into that. But we'll start it off right off the bat. Let's get into the Funko NFT stuff because that's obviously a big thing that we, here love, collect. We've been doing it for a long time. It's obviously a pretty interesting thing in the community where there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of love. It's very polarizing. It's
Yes.
not necessarily the most positive outlook on it right now, but does this mean it's going to be better or what do we think? So there was three officially announced IPs that we're going to get for the next three drops. Were they announced the actual dates yet, or is it just like it's saying March,
No
right, for the
dates,
three of
just
them?
in there coming in March. So we're
Okay.
getting three new drops. And like you had mentioned earlier, they sent out like an email if you're on the email list, basically promoting these. Like they've never done this before. They've normally have leaked like way earlier on. And part of me feels like this is their way
Yeah.
of trying to get ahead of that. But I also think it's really cool. It builds up the hype. They're probably gonna be able to tell off of social what people are excited for, what they're not. I mean, these are already been made, so they're gonna come out regardless. But I thought it was a really cool new way to get you excited and you knew what was coming.
Yeah. No, that right off the bat, regardless of what the drop was, or what these three were,
Yeah.
I found it really interesting because I said the same thing when we were talking about it. I was like, this is actually a pretty cool way to like announce it. And it's like, these are going to be coming up for the upcoming month, get you excited or not, whatever you feel, if you like it or not. But I wasn't like, even though like it's like a shock, like, oh, this is going to be coming out in a week or two, whatever, like when the drops were coming that way, like it was cool because you didn't know like what was coming. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't know. I feel like this is more exciting because
I
then
agree.
you like looking forward to it if you are excited for the drop, or you can kind of just like be okay with not having to save money for it, and like you're not going to want to get it. It just
Yep.
kind of seems a little bit more like a responsible way of doing it. Uh, so like you said, obviously we're getting Star Wars, we're getting
We're getting
Star Trek,
yep, Next
and then
Generation and
Next
Transformers
Generation.
Series 2. So
Yeah,
they're both kind of technically Series 2s because we had a Star Trek original series, and now obviously Star Wars will be the brand new one. And also it is a drop exclusive, which kind of we predicted. It seems like that was a stipulation for Disney giving Funko the rights to do NFTs.
yeah, yeah. Which we had a feeling like if they come out with another Disney specific, not necessarily Star Wars, Marvel, because we kind of didn't really know if that was going to be
Yeah.
coming so soon. We said the same thing, yeah, like with that. So the Disney one didn't do so well. Might have been a couple reasons. I think that was one of the reasons, maybe with the whole like exclusive to drop. But there was obviously other reasons. People didn't love that drop, and it was just a massive amount of packs. But like I see Star Wars as like obviously it's a big deal. There's a couple things I wanted to get into with this specifically. So kind of getting your take on it. But one, it's a massive fan base, right? It's a massive
Yep.
IP. It's massive for Funko. They have so many pops. They have so many, sodas and all these
And it's
other
constantly a
products.
top seller of like their
Yeah.
IPs.
Yeah. Every year it's like always up there. And it's like probably because it's so vast and there's so many characters it can make. And obviously they
Yeah.
redo stuff that we kind of sit here and complain about. But at the same time, like they're still coming out with like tons of stuff and there's tons of hardcore fans. It's a very hardcore fan base. So with Funko's terms, like, yeah, they're still around and they're continually to pump out products, right? So we already knew like one, Star Wars itself was so huge that if they came over to Funko NFTs, and again, we've been talking about this since the beginning of Funko NFTs, but we knew it was going to be a hard license and all that kind of stuff to figure it out. Back then, I feel like this would have been crazy. I
Crazy.
mean, it's still going to
Break the
probably be
internet.
crazy, but yeah, it would have been insane. Now we're at a point where NFT, you know, enthusiasts or lovers, whatever you want to say, like there's far and few between. It's a very different
Yeah.
community now than it was. And it's like a weird time. Now it's kind of one of those, okay, maybe this will bring us back to the
It'll be
excitement in the
interesting.
heyday. But I just feel like they're so behind with like issues and things that they're trying to fix that I don't know if this is gonna do that. And I also say that because I feel like they're gonna overdo this. I think they're gonna overproduce this, which they've kind of been doing recently.
Yep.
And in their eyes, well, there's more out there, it just means more people are going to get it, which doesn't always
It's
necessarily
not
mean,
working.
yeah. And I don't know, like, if you think the same or because I'm predicting there's going to be like so many packs of this. Like, I don't know. We said it kind of like if they ever make a Marvel, even, there's just going to
Yep.
be so many packs. And that's kind of like what we're getting now with Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. There's probably going to be too many packs unless they've decided that they can't do that anymore, but I don't think that's the case. So that's going to be the one thing it has against it. And yeah, like you said, a lot of people have just lost faith in Funko and Drop, not getting the Funkos, getting the wrong ones, coming damaged. I mean, we've talked about this on end,
Hmm.
but we may have said this before, but like Star Wars now, this is gonna be, no pun intended, like their last hope. Like if Star Wars doesn't do well, I don't, I'm not going to sit here and say NFTs are done and they're not going to make them anymore, but they'll know right then and there we're not going to be like getting the instant sellouts or selling as many packs as we used to if Star Wars doesn't do well.
Yeah.
And that's my honest opinion. I mean, but first and foremost, the pops that accompany this drop need to be awesome. So that's the other thing that they make mistakes with, which I know the controversy about Disney. They probably thought that was going to do way better than it did, but a lot of people weren't happy with all the pops. So if we're getting another Vader mold, another Luke mold, we need obscure characters that we've never had before. I'm really hoping it's prequel era, or like the Clone Wars cartoon, something like that, where we can get characters we don't really have had before. They need that for it to be successful, in my opinion.
Yeah. It is going to be interesting because, like, obviously, if you want to capture, hardcore fans, but also more casuals. Like, yeah, maybe you do a Luke and a Vader and a
Yeah.
C3PO and people that like obviously you're gonna catch their attention because they know the character. But obviously at the same time, for this to be, like you said, very successful and for it to be like instant sellout and like everyone's just going crazy, like there has to be something kind of special to it. And even if they happen to pick, so I feel like they're probably gonna pick a character or two of those regular ones. Like there just has to be something different about the mold or something different about the variation of it or something that we haven't seen. Like they can't just redo it because then it's just like gonna be very annoying. But I think they're kind of in a weird place because Star Wars specifically, especially because this is their first time putting them into an NFT drop, there is so many characters
Yep.
that I almost feel like there's too many that they're bound to mess it up because the amount of different things they can choose, like I just see them kind of like somehow screwing it up.
No,
I
you're
don't know.
not. You're not
I'm
wrong.
like, I'm not optimistic about it in a sense. Like, can they prove us all wrong? Yeah, maybe. But it's just interesting to see because they always do it. And I mean, obviously, this is completely different, but they always do it with like the holiday drops when it comes to Star Wars or the like anything that's like themed. They always drop the same
I know.
people, same characters, and it's just like a little different. So it's like if that's what it is, those are the five that come out, I'd be like not shocked. I'd actually be way more shocked if it's what we would rather have, it being more obscure, a little different. So that's where it's kind of like sad to say that that's like our mindset on it, but I mean, I don't think we're wrong when we say it that way. Like
No,
gonna
totally
be
not.
it's gonna
And the
be
thing is,
crazy.
too, there's so many. I've seen some chatter because there actually has been way more buzz for NFTs around this drop since it's been announced on social. And a lot of people are like, "Yeah, we got to get these awesome pops." Like, some a pop that people have been asking for forever is a Asajj Ventress. She's from the Clone Wars, and I think that would be a perfect drop for NFTs. And then you got other people complaining, "Oh, I've been asking for this pop for years, and now you're gonna make me do those stupid NFTs to get it. I
Yeah,
want it to be a
for
common."
sure.
So like you're not going to make anyone happy, but like I don't know. I want to be optimistic here and feel like Funko knows they cannot mess this up and they made it cool. But
Yeah, it's just and I'm just like
their
worried because
track
it's like
record's not helping. I feel like it'll be
it's
like the Harry Potter drop. Not in terms of the popularity, but like maybe we'll get something like that, like a scene or
yeah,
something along those
that would
lines.
make sense because I was just gonna say that like what's interesting is this is literally like unlike the Star Trek one, right, which is the next generation, like this is Star Wars. So it's like not a specific movie, it's not a specific like it's not saying that it's animated or not, like it's just very broad. So it could literally either be any of those or it could be a mixture of those. Chances are it's probably not a mixture based off of previous NFTs.
Yeah.
They usually stick to like a story, a movie, or line, or something that's a little bit more specific. But it's just like, which one do they choose? Do they start with episode one? Do they go episode, four technically? Because that's like the real OGs. Like, like how do
Yeah.
they start that? Do they go animated? I don't I think they gotta go movie more than animated, honestly, if I'm thinking like the first one out. But it's gonna be interesting because I mean, I wonder when we start getting these like leaks and these drops or
I
whatever it
know. I'm
is to see
shocked there
what these
hasn't been
are.
any leaks.
Because yeah, exactly. Especially depending on which one's the first one. Because not to stick on Star Wars, we can go on to some of the other ones. But obviously, Transformers is a series two. We already had one of those. There's tons of different characters, so obviously, okay, they're adding to that.
Yep.
Not crazy, it's whatever. And then the Star Trek Next Generation. So I'm like a huge Star Trek fan. Is this the movies though? Like the
No, no,
newer?
it was the second big television show, the one that
Okay, so this
had
is
Patrick
TV.
Stewart in it.
Okay,
Um,
the first drop was the movie, no?
well,
Like
the
the
thing that
newer set with Chris Pine, wasn't that?
no, the
That
first
wasn't
one
that
was the
one?
original. The thing that's interesting about Star Trek is they have their television shows and then went into movies, the same character. So like it was like the William Shatner version.
Oh, it was okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm probably mixing up because they obviously dropped movie
Yeah.
pops of those, and I feel like I'm just mixing what
It's a
was it with
smart
Blacklight. I remember, but I forgot.
it's a smart next progression for the Star Trek line, and they really only have OG like Funko Pops of Next Generation. They actually just
Okay,
came out with a new one at New York Comic Con, which I'm like, okay, like it's kind of funny. The NFT is now line is perfect timing because they're
yeah,
probably also now going to be busting out more common molds too.
yeah. So it's gonna be interesting, but definitely let us know what you guys think and what this means. Like Charlie said, this definitely will put it into perspective of if Funko really is not dead with NFTs, because like you said, they're still gonna come out with them. They're still
Yeah,
gonna be a thing. But I feel like even if they flop, it doesn't mean like they never make them again. It just means they're gonna make them and they're gonna know what they're gonna get from it. It's never gonna be that crazy. It's just gonna be another product that they sell, doesn't sell out. People get them. Some people are excited about them. Some are real hardcore fans of it, and some aren't. And they're probably just gonna be okay with that. And I mean, obviously, if it becomes a more popular thing, then maybe it kind of gets people back into it. Also, this is interesting to see if we start getting new people that have never gotten NFTs
I
only
think that'll
specifically
happen.
because it's Star Wars. So I think that's going to be another way to kind of see how that meter is. But yeah, we'll move on from NFTs because that's definitely something that, is to come to see what's going to happen with it. But let us know if you guys are excited for any of these three drops. Specifically, I know there's hardcore Star Wars fans out there. Some people probably listen to us. And if you guys are you excited for this? What do you hope that they make? I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
And
drop in the comments right now what you're thinking. If you haven't already, if you could please like this video and also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But definitely on to the
absolutely.
next topic.
Yeah, so we'll go to the next one, which is the president, Andrew Perlmutter of Funko, has, according to the news, resigned. And this is kind of a similar, it almost is like exactly like with the whole Brian thing,
It is.
where, he stepped away, he resigned, and he was like kind of part of the company, and then I guess he's not really part of the company because according to this, Andrew's gonna still be part of the board.
Yeah,
So like he's stepping down or whatever. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff, chatter going out there that, he was actually fired. Does seem kind of like that's probably what happens. I mean, with a lot of these like big company high-end guys, most of the time, usually they get fired and it's always like a resignation type of thing to
yeah,
save face and whatever. I would assume it's only really when something really bad happens or
that's when you're
something that was
fired.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, when they're like, oh, this person was fired because he was doing this X Y Z or
yeah,
whatever it
a
is, some kind of
scandal.
scandal, right? That's usually what it is. Otherwise, the resigning is just the term that they use. That's kind of how I've always looked at it. But either way, a little bit about Andrew, just kind of for some of you may have known, he has been with the company since 2013. So he was a senior vice president of sales back then, which is interesting because obviously it's like sales were a lot better probably back then than they are now, I would say. Obviously, the company was not doing the best. Last quarter, I know they were 14% down in net
Yeah,
sales. I know we talked about a lot of that stuff when it came to like they just weren't in a good place. But he was the CEO of the company for a year from 21 to 22-ish area. And then he was basically like demoted down essentially to the president back in December of 22, and he's been there for not even just over a year, essentially.
yeah,
Again, this guy can't keep a job for more than a year or position. So now he's out. And, this could mean a few things, whether it was actually a firing, because clearly they're not doing well, or him just being like, I'm done with this. Let me just move on, do something else. Whatever it is, it's obviously not a good look when this happens with the company, of
no,
course, like regardless, like it's gonna affect them. It's gonna affect their numbers. The stock always gets affected. Like a lot of things kind of come into play. But I'm looking at it more as like, what does this mean for Funko like going forward? Obviously one of the big ones is always like when stuff like this happens, like are they gonna sell to a different company? Is someone else gonna come in and like, you know, that's always like a thing when it comes to these big corporate companies, right? Or is it like they're gonna have change coming in and this is a good thing? But like, I don't know, where's your head at when it comes to this? Like, are you
yep.
thinking the latter or is it like
I,
what do you
I'm thinking they just are writing. They're want a clean slate. They want new leaders in there. What Brian and Andrew did just wasn't working after they were so successful. And I just think this is just the corporate, you know, cycle of life. And
yeah,
yeah, there's just no point for him being there anymore. His basically his regime is gone.
yeah,
And as we all know, Mike Becker's still there, but he's never the business guy. So like I feel like he still will stay with Funko. But I mean, they're even making decisions right now, which have found interesting. People they have fired, they are now working with again. Like under Andrew
yeah,
Bryan's regime. Like Sully, for example, he used to do social media. Um, got let go. I know when he got let go, people weren't happy about it, and now they're working with him with Drop and the Funko NFTs. So I think they're listening to people and they're just, I think it's as simple as we need some fresh blood. It
yeah.
can't get any worse type thing.
Yeah, and it does make sense usually when like one person goes, two or three more. Like it's a team at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and like yeah, it's kind of just like in sports when they get rid of the head coach, all the coordinators are gone, and like they
exactly.
reset everything. So it's kind of like it was interesting. Brian's been gone for a little while now, and obviously Andrew's still been around, but now it's like all right, let's move on from you and really switch
And
this
the
up. But
interim CEO, they're probably finally debating like, is he the guy to bring this company forward? I'm assuming he
yeah, because
is.
there's
And
still interim currently,
yeah,
right?
I'm assuming he is, and he's going to pick his team.
Yeah. Which would make sense if that's what they go with, obviously. And like you said, either that's going to happen or if he's just not the guy and they go with a brand new and we get an
Yep.
announcement with a brand new CEO, same thing. I'm sure he's going to bring in his own team. and kind of be like, okay,
Exactly.
this is how we want to run this company, whatever. Um, but what are your thoughts on the potential, like someone trying to buy them out?
You know, I don't see it happening right now. There was a lot of talk about it months ago. No one's really
Yeah,
seemed to be talking about it anymore. I think they're just trying to right the ship, and I think the leadership that they have right there, right now, people who are still there, think they can bring this company back to where it was. And it seems
yeah,
like they're starting to make some good decisions, to make it more, not niche isn't the right word, but bringing it back to not being so mass produced to
yeah.
what we talked about this before, like what people loved about Funko.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely have noticed that just in general, like just product alone really
Yeah,
has slowed down. I know they got rid of tons of extra product that they had to just sell off and they lost a ton of money for
yeah,
that. So clearly they were learning that, over mass producing stuff is not the way to go for them specifically in this type of, collecting hobby type,
yeah.
world. But yeah, I don't think that's necessary. I just know that's been something that floats around, and it's like, that there's always potential for that kind of stuff. But usually when you
Always.
see changes of people and CEOs and presidents, like that's always kind of something that does get brought up. I feel like I've seen a few shows recently that like were tailored around like big companies, and like that always was something that happened. Uh, but yeah, with Funko, I guess we'll see. I can't say they're in like a worse off place. I don't think they're fully better, but I could see how there's definitely differences and changes that have been happening in general. And one of the big ones, like I said, is definitely that whole we're not just getting flooded with a ton of stuff. And like it's just gonna be an interesting rest of the year to kind of see like, how does this go? Who do they choose for some of these positions? And, once we get some more official stuff on that, obviously we'll talk about it here and we'll let you guys know, our thoughts on it, but definitely love to hear what you guys think as far as where Funko's going. I mean, it's just interesting this company because there's people out there who are so far on one side saying like, oh no, this is still great, it's never going anywhere. And there's people on the complete other side saying that they're done and they're gonna go out of business. But then, there's a lot of us here in the middle that like see both sides, and it's like they're not going out of business, but hopefully they get back to where we
Exactly.
love
They're
them,
definitely not going out of business, not going anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, a company could acquire them. I don't know who, like, I feel like another toy company maybe could, and Funko just becomes a part of their, like, it's like a lineup.
Yeah.
I've even thought before Disney could acquire them because it makes sense for them because a big part of their business is their IP anyway.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't Funko's going nowhere. I do think they're gonna make it better. I really do. Maybe
Yeah.
that's just the shill in me of wanting Funko to be what it used to be, but I just think it's going to be.
Yeah. I could see it at least making its way back to that. Um, But another little news topic that we want to talk about. So this one's an interesting one. So this kind of goes off of what you said with like obviously people that have left Funko
Yeah.
or people who are getting rid of or got fired or whatever. Like, because obviously there's been a ton of like layoffs and people that have gotten let go within the last year and stuff. But someone who's a pretty big name in the collecting world in general
Yeah.
as like someone as a creative artist and someone who has done so much in the past, at least for Funko, is of course Reis O'Brien, who,
Yes.
if you follow if you're really into like Funko and collecting and the art behind some of the concepts and stuff, like this guy was a really big deal and he still is a big deal in general. But he's been gone for a little while, and now there was just some news announced that he's actually joining officially as the creative director for Handmade by Robots, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool and pretty interesting because that was a pretty small company for like
Yeah.
still up until recently, I would say, when you put it up against the Funkos of the world, right? But of course, they make like pretty awesome, specific like vinyl figures, which are look like they're actually hand woven. I have a few of them. They do a lot of horror stuff.
Yeah,
So
they're
obviously,
awesome.
you have Ghostface, I have Leatherface. Like I have a few of those, and really cool. So this is actually like pretty exciting news to see. Someone like Reese, and he the announcement in the picture they showed, he like drew himself as like
It's so cool.
one of the things. Yeah. which is like so cool. And create bot. They said so. Yeah, like what are your thoughts on this? Because this is just a like he's not the first. Like you said, there's other artists that we've heard of or rumored or whatever that have left Funko and have gone to other companies or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's just kind of what they're gonna do. They still want to get a job, but this is a pretty cool one.
I mean, I think it's a brilliant move by Handmade by Robots because one, like you said, Reis O'Brien is still super huge in the collecting world. I mean, he has his own company where he makes what called Tiny Ghost Soulmates
Hmm.
collectibles, which I love. I mean, they're if you haven't seen them before, they're essentially, I mean, they're premium, collectibles, and they look like a tiny mini ghost. And he does IPs, like he gets away around by not calling them the real
Yeah,
name. Like he just had he made a Ninja Turtle one. There's been Pokemon ones, Indiana Jones. Like they're super cool. And his, like you said, his art is amazing. He's was behind a lot of the designs for the early mystery minis for Funko, and just he's one of their bigger artists. I mean, unfortunately, like when Funko did let him go, it's probably because he was probably had one of the highest paychecks of that team, which is unfortunately corporate life. But he was fine, and now I think having a company who probably aspires to be like Funko, the better days of Funko, Handmade by Robots, it's a brilliant move. You get, they'll learn a lot from him, and he's just going to make, I think he's going to put the company on a bigger map. Like if
yeah,
you are in the collectible world, you kind of know about them, but some people don't. And they're doing cool things. Like one thing that I loved about them was we say all the time, Funko, get in more, stadiums as giveaways. Last year they did a giveaway for the Mets, and I've searched, like they did it for the Nationals. They did it for a few other MLB teams. They did it for the
hmm
Kraken, Seattle Kraken in the NHL. Like, dude, just getting their name out there and showing these cool collectibles. I mean, I love the company actually. I have a
yeah, yeah.
decent amount.
Yeah, I have a
Um,
few, and
I have a few.
they're great. They're definitely like they look awesome. They're like the design is very unique. It's super cool, but it's them, and they always stick to it, and they make tons of different types of characters, different IPs and stuff. But like somebody like getting Reese in there, basically, like you said, when it came to his own Tiny Ghost, like this kind of transitions to that like perfectly.
Yeah,
Like this, like it's not similar, but it's like Funko Pop kind of has its look, and then you got a lot of other different vinyl companies and whatever. But I feel like him already doing Tiny Ghosts and the uniqueness of some of those designs and things like fits more into like a handmade by robots type of
agreed.
vibe rather than a Funko Pop because they're just like most of the time a lot of them look the same. So yeah, definitely pretty cool to see just what this means for him and what Tiny goes. Like, is that going to be like a collab type of thing? Are they going to somehow get that, or is he just strictly going to be doing like their art and stuff? So that's going to be cool to see what happens. But
I feel like
it's
within a
interesting.
year, this company's gonna explode. You will, if you haven't heard of them, you will. And I think they're coming for the Funko people, in my opinion, because
Yeah,
like you said, there's a lot of people who've probably never heard of them, and he is gonna make them heard. I think it's a
yeah.
great, great move.
And what's good about them too is they fall into. So I guess if you had to like say the two sides of like the vinyl collecting world, right? There's the Funko. Well, there's probably to me there's three sides. There's a Funko, there's then there's like two more designer toy style,
Yep.
which you got your high-end super plastics and like those crazy, they're so expensive, some of them. And then there's like this little middle ground of these smaller great vinyl figures, but they're not the priciest ones, and
No.
of course we know, big fans of Mischief Toys, 100% soft, handmade by robots. Like they fall into that like part. And what
Yeah,
are
but
these
one
guys?
thing that's good about
U2s
them
and
though,
stuff.
they're
And like I feel
extremely
like,
affordable.
yeah, yeah,
They're cheaper than U2s. They're cheaper than Mischief Toys, Abominable Toys, like 100% soft. That's what makes them even cooler. Like that's
hmm
another reason why I feel like they are going to come for Funko. They're going to get their hands into more people where if you're not like a vinyl collector like we are, some people are just never going to get into 100% soft. They're not going to get
yeah,
into
yeah,
Mischief Toys like you would want them to, but I think they're going to be more, it's going to be more widespread.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely helpful having someone like him who already has all that history and everything, that
Exactly.
fan base behind him. So that's going to be awesome to see where that company goes and if it continues to grow, which we assume that it will be, and rightfully so, because like we said, that company's great and they
Yeah.
do amazing products. If you guys have not checked out Handmade by Robots, definitely check them out because most likely they have something that you may be a fan of. And once you get one of these in and you see them in person, it just looks so cool.
They
Like the
do.
design really is awesome. Like it's really awesome. Very unique. But we'll move on to the next topic. This one we wanted to cover mostly because we love talking Funko sodas and how they no longer exist, essentially. Uh, but we did have a little interesting thing happen, which with a certain soda. So we actually have. I wanted to bring up two specific types of sodas, but they're all going to tie into this whole little story of sodas. But one of them specifically is a Scooby-Doo soda, which is the Velma soda, which was announced a while back.
Yep.
This was a 7,000 piece soda. So, you know, what we love has piece count. It's a low piece count. Great. Soda's not like the best looking in the whole like common chase. It'd be one of those ones that we like to call, a little lazy and not the best. Mold literally barely changed, just a
It's
hand.
typical of
Yeah.
laziness, actually. It's spot
Literally
on.
just a hand. It's like annoying. But the big news about this is how this specific soda was a pre-order through Entertainment Earth, which essentially is pretty much Funko's like biggest
Yeah.
pre-order company before the whole Jason Kelsey, because obviously Funko never did pre-orders themselves until that damn pop. Uh, but everything, even they would promote, they put on their stories back in the heyday when things were dropping and like announced pretty much all the time. Entertainment Earth
They
was where
send
you
you
would
there.
want to go, and that's where it was a direct link to them to pre-order to them. So this was a soda, obviously, that was pre-ordered. I don't know exactly the date or when this was like officially out, but now everyone's getting notifications that this has been canceled. So it kind of falls into the whole like, talk that we've had for months now. We've
Yeah.
been talking about this well before a lot of other people have been bringing this up, and we kind of spotted it early on that in our eyes, Funko sodas were essentially dead. And a couple things. One, we thought they just really were not going to be coming out with many anymore, which they haven't been. We thought maybe, the transition to rewinds was a thing, which kind of seemed like maybe it wasn't, even those are kind of slow now.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, which is interesting. Those kind of slowed down, which I forever never thought they should have been as big as they were. But sodas literally are like essentially gone. And we're not getting big drops anymore. We're not getting a bunch of reveals anymore. Lines are not being fully, finished. And this just kind of somewhat falls into that. But I mean, there's a few things this may mean, but I think that's one of the big ones. I don't know if you agree with that or like, what do you think exactly this really is telling us?
I
Like, is
think
this
this is
just a
telling us,
one-off? Is just
no, I think this is telling us Funko Sodas are dead. They didn't put this into production, not making it anymore. I'm happy you brought up the rewinds because we didn't talk about that offline, but like I was thinking the same thing. They don't really seem to be pumping those anymore either. We're in now a world talking about them, changing their strategy. They're going back to the pop, which has always been their most popular line. And we're just getting different versions of the pop. So the normal
Mhm.
pop, the bitty pop, the
Yeah,
pocket pop, like we're staying with that look. And it seems
NFT
like
pops.
exactly it's all just pops. I mean, think about the sodas NFTs, man. There was two of those in the beginning. If you have those, they're probably awesome to have. I have one of them. They made a Scooby-Doo one of
Yeah,
all things we're talking about. They never brought those back to the NFT world. It's
yeah,
just sodas, they are dead. They have whatever they've made, in my opinion, and they are not coming back.
yeah. So
I feel very strongly about it, actually, and it's unfortunate.
So I feel like they're not completely gone. They're definitely never going to be what we thought they were. I think they're going to be more, because this is why I wanted to bring up this other soda. I think they're going to be more specific to cons, to
Cons.
special events, and we'll get a couple sodas. And I think that's when we're only going to see sodas. And the reason why I say that is because one, that was really the last time we really saw sodas was New York Comic Con,
Yep.
right? New York Comic Con of last year. There was some sodas definitely in that wave. Some were not that great. Some were like okay, but we got sodas. It was part of the whole lineup. Obviously, it's one of the bigger cons that in San Diego, and for the most part, usually we get them. Now, throughout cons, whether it's been, Emerald City or WonderCon,
Yep.
like they always had sodas in their lineup amongst them dropping regular casual common sodas. The common sodas completely are gone. They have and by common I don't mean like the non-number. I just mean sodas that weren't in cons. They completely just stopped doing it. They stopped announcing them. They stopped dropping them. The only times we were seeing them was sometimes during conventions and coolers. We'd randomly get a cooler, which we just got another announcement recently of
Yep.
cooler. But there is another one, Jimmy Cricket
I knew you were gonna talk about
soda.
that one, which is awesome.
Yeah, which is a 2024. This one's Entertainment Expo
Yeah,
limited
it's
edition.
C2E2, which they've never had exclusive for before.
Yeah, which I was gonna say, which is interesting because we don't ever see it. So this is kind of like, are they dead? No, like, but no, I just think they're gonna be more for that type of thing. And it's an awesome soda. Obviously, it's great, but it's coming out for that. And we're just not getting these regular drops anymore. And I think, we've had this conversation. If you want to listen to our full blown soda episode, which we talk about how sodas are dead, go back and listen to us a few episodes back. We've talked about it a couple months ago. And we really go in depth on what our things, why we think it is. But I still think it comes down to a couple big things. And I think it's the price of them.
Yep.
I think to make, aluminum cans and all that kind of stuff, and the price that they had to put them at to probably make money and a profit was too high because they're really expensive compared to a pop, especially. And I think that's just when people stop buying them. And then the third one is when they just overdid them. And then they come out with the non-numbered versions where they were just sitting around at your Walmarts and Targets and half opened. And that was just where it's like, this is this is over. This is no longer like a fun collectible thing that we can continue to make. And for the longest time, it was one of my main reasons why I collected Funko. I
Yeah.
transitioned from pops almost exclusively to sodas. My channel switched kind of over. I'd mix in here and there. One of the main reasons I brought in my daughter to help me open things was because of sodas. She loved opening sodas, like that whole chase thing, and that is done. I haven't had a video on my pop channel, my specific one, in 2 months. And it's because of a couple things, not just sodas, but just Funko in general, just not being as exciting. Uh, but yeah, sodas, I do think we like to say the whole, oh, they're dead. I don't think we're never gonna see a soda again, but they are definitely not what we are used to. And it's
Yeah.
probably gonna be very specific to these things. And this is one of those like common version ones that I'm saying that now is not even gonna get fulfilled. And it probably means that they just never made it or they're not going to make it essentially.
It's just crazy though. Like, I don't want to say they are officially dead, but here I'm gonna double down on why I think they are. Like this Jiminy Cricket one, I think they were making it and they're gonna make it at cons. They're gonna like maybe whatever they already started to produce, they're gonna, let it ride the con wave because I do agree with you with that. It makes them a little more special. But I do think once they're done with them, they're done. The only ones we may get at cons are Freddy's. I just don't. I also think we've talked about this before, but like this was a Brian creation.
Yeah, yeah, I
Brian
get it.
loved these. I mean, Brian would have every weekend on Twitter a Funko Soda Saturday contest where it was, you were only posting pictures of sodas, not pops, even though it's funny because he was the pop guy too, but sodas were like his total baby. I think it's just kind of like Brian's gone. We're done with these.
Yeah.
Like I just think that I don't I just don't
Yeah.
think they're going to make them anymore. It may take a few years, but like this, I think the Scooby Doo one is a this Velma's a perfect example. It's like, we didn't make this yet. We're done. We're not going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, that one definitely showed you like, okay, yeah. And it's not even it was only 7,000. So it's not like they
Yeah.
had to really
Because you could have
mass make
made
it,
that a con one. That would have been a great con.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like counter that, like we just recently got the announcement of the one that just came out as a cooler. We had
Yeah.
Avatar Last Airbender cooler that came out, which is super random. Like the coolers were always cool. I always liked them. I didn't love every wave that they would come out with. The
Yeah.
concept was always fun and the bags were nice. This one's odd because it literally like they look like shrunken babies, like
It's
versions
a
of the
weird look.
characters. Like they just look odd. But either way, like I just want to see a big convention and let's see what we get during that
Yeah.
to see if like, okay, we're really not gonna get even sodas for this.
San Diego Comic
Or
Con
is
will
it gonna
be
be
like,
yeah.
we'll
Or is
know.
it gonna just be sodas? You know, that kind of thing. But even the WonderCons of the world, which are smaller conventions, they used to
Yeah.
be pretty much 90% sodas in
No, you're
those
right.
drops for a little while. So like we'll see. We again, that's another thing. We haven't gotten any talk of any upcoming convention stuff in general. So that'll be,
But
I
also
like I
too,
could
you
well,
go.
I was gonna say I could see them and Funko in general if they're really slowing down and doing whatever. Like I could see them just sticking to San Diego and New York and just being like that's all that they're a part of. Like if they
Could
really
be.
want, I mean, now again, I know Emerald City's kind of like their local one. It's them. They could probably pull off a small little event there, but maybe not all the other ones anymore. Like maybe just
Even though
keep it to
weirdly,
those.
I'm pretty sure they've never had exclusives for Chicago's Comic Con, and they do this year. So it's like it's weird.
Yeah, who knows what they're doing?
But what I was gonna say too is like, I mean, also think about the leaks that we get all the time. There's been no soda leaks, none.
Yeah.
There's been no. I'm talking like there's lines that we loved. We talked a few weeks ago how diecast is that's dead too. There's been no diecast leaks. Like
hmm
there's been leaks of nothing besides pops and bitty pops.
Yeah, they're definitely that's all it is. I mean, they're definitely being technically, yeah, but probably realistically just being price conscious and like
Yeah,
things that are costing them money to just not doing it.
it's not
And I
worth
mean,
it.
that's a smart business move. I'm sure, they want to, they're losing money.
It
So
doesn't mean they
clearly,
can't resurrect soda again.
yeah, yeah, clearly they want to get back on the foot of like being profitable and like doing stuff that is going to get them money. But it's going to be like wild to see like how they do it, but I guess we'll see. We kind of are getting that now. Like we're seeing some of these higher end, the die casts, the sodas, like things that like were costing probably them a lot of money and they were charging more than your average other products that they sell. They seem to kind of step away with it. I mean, even like if we want to stick to like pop itself and we want to talk about price, and this is another thing that kind of fits in there, 10 inches.
Yeah,
They don't make that many of those anymore. I mean, like we get them or we get an
but not really.
announcement or we hear about one, but I mean, maybe Pokemon's been the one
We
that's been
just got a
like
new
most
Pokemon for Target Con
predominantly, yeah, like
and a
predominantly
Stitch.
that's being
But
but those like they still kind of throw a lot of those out there,
yep,
but a lot of other stuff is not being announced with a 10-inch jumbo size pop anymore.
no,
So again, that's a more expensive product. It's like there's like it's just like it really is going back to the old just general 3-inch pop. And that's like what they're really gonna and I mean that's how they started and good for them because that's probably their biggest, revenue
that's what everyone thinks Funko
line.
is. Like if you're
Yeah,
not like a
exactly.
fan like us, it's like this people call Pops Funkos. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
they don't
The
know.
pop.
So like that's obviously their bread and butter.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's gonna be it's I don't know. We gotta see what this means. We didn't yeah, even for I don't think we ever gotten them for maybe we did for even for Target Con. Was there ever sodas in the past?
No, I don't
I
believe
don't think
so.
there was, right? Yeah, so because
Because
so
no,
we just
because
recently got
retailers
that.
weren't getting them, and the retailers once they finally got those common sodas, they ruined sodas too because people are like we've
Yeah,
said ripping them open, then they become basically
that was such a
unsellable.
waste. Yeah, that was such a waste. Like they must have lost so much money. And
Yeah,
people already weren't the biggest fans of the lines they were going with and what sodas they
yeah.
were making anyways. And for them to just be a mass-produced one without numbers wasn't exciting for us as like, hardcore collectors. And then these things are just demolished everywhere, so you can't even buy them anyways. What a waste. Like that was a
It's just
huge waste.
unfortunate too. There's no way Funko's and Funko's not thinking I'm going to make a product that my fans love and then a-holes are going to rip them all open in stores either. That's the other
Yeah, of course.
unfortunate thing. Like all the mysteries. That's why they only work at like Hot Topics or Box Lunch. It's a very confined store. You can see what's going on in there. But the moment you put them in Target, I mean, I feel like I every soda I see in Target or Rewind, they're all been ripped open.
Yeah,
All of
rewinds
them.
too.
Yep, Rewinds too.
Oh. I have a question for you when it comes to sodas. I want to see what you think of this because I was thinking about this the other day when I was actually was like looking at my wall and I was figuring out if I wanted to rearrange things. I know I showed you that I was putting a lot of product into
Yep.
storage and stuff. With the way that sodas are going and pretty much non-existent and like, it's a thing of the past. A lot of these OG sodas, right? Like wave one, two, three, like the early ones. Do you think that they're gonna be like these things are gonna have more value
Like
now in the
Grail.
sense of
Uh,
like they're gonna be so like, oh my God, they don't exist or whatever? Or are they at a point that no one cares about them, so they're gonna have no value?
I
I
think
feel
it's in
like we're
bet
in a really like,
we're in between.
yeah, we're not like one way or the other, and that's kind of what's like
Because like I don't feel like
wild.
Funko fans they care about sodas. They don't not care about them. So I do think having some of the OG ones, especially Chases, like I do think they'll become like grails to certain people. The ones that they've made more recently, no. But
Yeah,
I a true Funko fan, I feel still like sodas. They're just they're not happy with what happened with them.
yeah,
Because, and it's funny, I had no problems admitting it. And you can go back and listen to earlier podcasts. When they first announced the common soda, Migs was totally shitting on it. I thought it was not the worst idea. I clearly was wrong in that, but I didn't expect to happen what happened. I thought we would still get numbers. These would be just bigger lines to give them more to the public, like the Marvels. Like it started with the Guardians, for
yeah.
example. But like that plan backfired. It didn't happen what I thought was going to happen, and definitely not what Funko thought was going
Yeah.
to happen.
I wonder if they like kind of predicted in the sense of like, okay, these aren't doing so well for us. Like we're like because of the price, it's costing
Yeah,
us a lot, but we're selling them like, like maybe if we just make more of them, more people will have access to them and they'll be able to get it. Like they thought of it wrong, but I wonder if they thought by doing that it was going to be better. It's just weird because it's like in that stage that they also were overproducing pops.
yeah,
So like they were in that mode, whether it was their, higher management and people that just didn't know what the hell they were doing, but like them thinking that's what fans of Funko wanted and to be try to become like this Hasbro of the world was like probably their biggest
it was.
F up of like a company. And I think that's where like they're really trying to figure out now how to play catch up because it's what's interesting. It's like now you're telling me, okay, this company is more profitable realistically and better when you're more niche and there's less products, but you have no money. So like now you got to be like, all right, don't make
I know.
stuff, but how are we going to sell it? How are we going to make money? They're in like that weird mode now.
Yeah, it's
But
even funny though. Talking about the sodas, still just a little bit more. Like, remember when they were so hyped? Like, they would sell it immediately on Funko Shop, not just exclusives, but
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, oh, we got new drops. Like that shows they were popular. I
yeah.
think at
There
one point
definitely
they
was
were
a time that they
making
were really, really,
pops at one
yeah.
point.
Yeah, and I think that that's when like I said, I transitioned over to like, oh, they were smaller, they were better to display, like everything about them I loved, and it made it easier. But then when the price hikes started going up, which everything kind of took a little bit of a hike,
Yeah,
but they took a
they
really
took
big
way too
hike.
much. Funko took advantage of their fans. They're like, This is the our most popular right now, our most popular line right now. We can charge more. People are going to buy them. That's why they started mass producing them. And like you said, that backfired because that is one thing. They don't always have the smartest people. They don't understand the consumer. I'm like, I don't know what
Yeah,
market research you're doing, but like that's where they mess up a lot. Like
yeah.
almost every big mistake they made is they didn't understand their fan.
Sad, sad, sad day.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of covers everything in the week
Yeah.
because we had a pretty solid stuff that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, the news and the chaos and the craziness of, maybe not such great news when it comes to the president stuff and like him resigning, but who knows? Maybe that's a good thing for them. Maybe they'll bring someone on who's going to change some things. So we're hoping for that. Funko NFTs, look out for those because we will be actually like a more
Yeah,
relevant to
Space
now.
Jam comes
We
out
have
today.
Space Jam. Yeah, Space Jam is the newest drop, which will be coming out, and then I'm assuming that'll be it for the rest of the month, and then going into March. Hopefully, we know when these specifically are coming out, but we got 3 drops, which is a pretty good amount for a month. Usually,
Yeah,
2 is kind of okay. Now we're
it's
getting 3.
ridiculous.
So yeah, one of them being Star Wars, obviously. So let's see how
And I'm
that
assuming they'll
goes.
go in the order that that image was. So Star Wars is probably going to be the end of the month if I was to guess.
Okay, yeah. So, but let us know what you guys think. Definitely make sure you guys are liking the video. Help us out with that, putting it out there. Subscribe, do all the good stuff. But comment as well because we had a couple different topics today. Specifically talking about Funko and their management stuff like that. Or are you more excited about these NFTs? What do you think about this soda stuff and all this chaos? And do you also collect other designer toys like Handmade by Robots, which we were mentioning,
Yeah.
and other products as well? Definitely let us know some of your favorites down below. But that'll be it for this episode. A little bit quicker one, officially, and
Yeah.
we'll keep it moving so Charlie can actually let you guys know where our socials and everything to make sure you guys are staying up to date with all of us and our episodes. But
Yeah, so
that'll
make
be
sure
it.
you're following us at Collector Chatter on Instagram and then at pop_Migs and at Collector_Charlie. And like Meg said, please make sure you like this video. Shoot us those comments. We've gotten some pretty awesome comments this past week on our episode, which I just want to shout out to everyone who said such kind things of how, we're like one of the most underrated shows. Like, why don't more people know us about us? We feel that way, but like, please share this episode, tell people about our
Please.
channel because, like, we do obviously feel that way because it is our show, but like, we really, really appreciate the kind words. So, if you're listening, if you're new, thank you. And if you haven't already, can you please subscribe to this channel? Then also hit that notification bell so you know when new episodes or just other new videos are coming out. All right, everyone. Thanks again. And don't forget, collecting is the way. Later.
Bye, everybody.